Hi students, and welcome to today's live IELTS class. My name is Adrian. I'm streaming to you from beautiful Victoria here in Western Canada. Everybody, this is an IELTS Task 2 writing class today. Welcome, Farouzan. Yes, this is an absolutely free live class for you here on YouTube. And the topic will be changing hours. You'll learn very quickly what that means here in just a moment. Students, this lesson is presented to you by aehelp.com. For academic IELTS, visit us there. For the general IELTS, check us out at gieltshelp.com. These are our websites that power these live classes. They contain all of our materials, practice exams, and much, much more. This is our academic IELTS website here. You can join by clicking the red button just off to my left. It is a one-time payment for lifetime access. When you click that button, use the code REACH9 to get access to all of our materials, including 2 extra live classes like this on Thursday and Friday through Zoom. You will see the price in your local currency. It's roughly between $30 and $50 US. We are an IDP affiliate, a British Council partner, an IELTS test registration center, and we had the first IELTS video on YouTube in 2011. You can check out all of our success stories on the website, and hopefully you will also become one of them. General IELTS, gieltshelp.com. It's the green background, same idea. We like to separate the general from the academic. It makes sense. Welcome, Ariadna. Hi, Jack, Murasa, Fatime, Carolina. Good to have our moderator in the class. Welcome, everybody. Nice to see you. All right, everyone. So again, for those of you who are premium users of the websites, you should have the links for this week's premium classes on Thursday and Friday. Again, today is a Task 2 writing class. To check out those premium classes, you can take a look at this link here. And if you have questions, just send me an email. My email is adrian@aehelp.com or admin@aehelp.com. Of course, you can ask questions in the chat today as well. So Carolina or myself will help you out. Now, this here is a little bit incorrect for today. The reason being is related to the topic of today's Task 2 writing. So today's Task 2 writing looks like this, and I'll actually show you the schedule after we look at the Task 2 writing question. Let's read the question. Okay, so in the IELTS exam, the writing section is the last piece. It comes after the listening and reading, and you're in the test by this point at least 2 hours because you already did Task 1. So you did like 50 minutes of listening exam, 1 hour of reading exam, you did 20 minutes of Task 1, and now you're into Task 2 writing. And Task 2 writing, maybe one of the most challenging parts of the test for sure. Step 1, always just read the question. IELTS Task 2 writing. You should spend about 40 minutes on this task. Definitely spend 40 minutes on Task 2, everybody. Several countries implement daylight savings, changing clocks back an hour in fall and forward an hour in the spring. Other countries do not. Discuss the benefits and negatives of daylight saving hours and give your own opinion. All right, and there's a reason I presented this question. Now, this could be a question on your IELTS exam because it's fairly well known around the world. Is everybody familiar with daylight savings? Is everybody aware? Does everybody know what this is talking about? I just want to make sure that everyone understands what that is. Murasa says, wow. Someone says, wow, that's a new topic. Sioma says, what does it mean? Marasa says, I have experienced this. Nimar says, no. All right. Well, many countries, especially in Europe and North America, will change their clocks in fall. So in the October to December season, and then they will change their clocks again in the springtime. Ariadna says, "Oh yes, again and again." Fatima says, "Yep." Fatima says, "Our country changed their attitude." Yeah, a lot of countries are starting to not do daylight savings. That should give you an idea of this question as well. All right, so clearly many of you are aware of what this means. And this just happened for us here in Canada, where I live. In Europe, many countries changed it a week before. So in Canada, people changed their clock last Sunday. November 3rd at midnight, back one hour. So we kind of get like an extra hour in the day, if you will. Okay. So we changed it back 1 hour. In the spring, it'll spring forward. In the fall, it falls back. Okay. And Fatim is like, yeah, why? All right. So anyway, we'll look at the question and we'll talk about this. We'll talk about why people do it. I'm sure you'll figure that out pretty quickly. And then we'll write an essay around it. Now, because of this, a lot of you are noticing that this clock probably started an hour later for you, right? And that's because for me, it's still just 6:30 as usual, okay? It's later for you because you didn't turn your clock back 1 hour. So the classes right now have to change to 15:30 to 16:30. And I'll tell you why that is, everyone, because as much as I love to teach, there is no way that I'm waking up at 4:30 a.m. to teach a class at 5:30 a.m. It's just too early, especially with kids. So I have to keep the same schedule, but the time changed for me. So, and it didn't change for you. So, sorry, I should correct this at 14:30 to 15:30. So basically for you, it's ahead an hour, because for me, it's back an hour. So all of these have to move. So this is 14:30, this is 15:30. Why? Because this is universal time, UTC. Okay, so UTC means universal time. Universal time does not move, right? Unlike the clock in Canada or the US or all around Europe, the universal clock does not move. The universal clock stays the same. So some of you should be starting to realize why this might be a bit of a pain in the neck, right? For many people in the world, right? Okay. Absolutely, Fatima. Some good critical thinking, and IELTS requires critical thinking, everybody. So IELTS is not just an English exam. That's one of the biggest mistakes that a lot of students make when they start preparing for the IELTS. IELTS is an English proficiency exam that is also testing your thinking. Simple way to prove that. That's why there are two versions, academic and general. Okay. Academic tests your school thinking more. And general tests your everyday thinking more, but both demand good critical thinking. Okay, So we're going to do that as we answer this task 2 question about daylight savings. And again, don't be surprised, you could get a question just like this on your upcoming IELTS exam. So let's read this one more time and then we'll get into the steps of planning and writing, okay? MKYT says it's a business. Daylight savings? I don't think that's a business. I don't think that's the reason that countries came up with it. Daylight savings have been around for, I don't even know, maybe somebody can Google that, but I would imagine like, my guess would be probably like 100 years, 150 years, something like that. 100 years, that would be my guess. 100 years, maybe a little bit less. There is logic to daylight savings, everybody. I mean, think about the word daylight savings, right? Okay, so let's read it one more time. Neymar, I think it does. Yeah, I think Australia still does. You'd have to check. So IELTS task 2 writing, you should spend about 40 minutes on this task. Several countries implement daylight savings, changing clocks back an hour in fall and forward an hour in the spring. Other countries do not. Discuss the benefits and negatives of daylight saving hours and give your own opinion. All right, let's paraphrase this and write at least 250 words. That means you should go over 250 by a little bit if you want to get a high band score. So it's at least 250 words. Okay. All right, let's do this. So let's paraphrase. Many nations, several countries, many nations, sure. Have, implement, just simply have. Daylight savings, so have changing hours, if you know what daylight savings are. Turning clocks, so turning time back 60 minutes in autumn instead of fall, and forward 60 minutes in spring. Other countries do not. Okay, what are the advantages of this and the deficits? What do you think about it? Okay. All right. So this is my paraphrase. Why do we paraphrase? Some students think that this is the start of your essay. Maybe, but that's not the reason why we paraphrase. Okay. Paraphrasing the task 2 question. A helps you to think more about the question. B ensures that you understand the question, right? A lot of times, one of the biggest mistakes is students write answers to questions in task 2 and they don't know really what they're writing about, and they write off topic. And even though the writing is like okay, I mean the grammar and the English, they get a low mark because they're not answering the question. Again, IELTS is a thinking exam. If you write off topic, just like in high school or college, you're not going to get a good mark. In fact, you can simply straight up fail. Okay. All right. So it helps. So paraphrasing helps you to think more. It helps you understand the question, and also it helps you collect some useful vocabulary. Okay, so that's why we want to paraphrase. It's not so you have the introduction. If you're using your paraphrasing and just making a quick introduction, you're probably writing like a band 6 essay or a 6.5 if you're writing with good English without mistakes. Okay, but for those higher band essays, you have to do more for the introduction. Okay, So now that we looked at this, we have to identify the topic. Okay, here the topic is quite clear. Okay, the topic here is daylight savings. Okay, so turning clocks backwards and forwards. All right, and then the controlling ideas. Okay, and the controlling ideas here are the benefits, the negatives, and your opinion. Okay. Marasa, I see that you have some paraphrasing there. Good for you. And that's what you should be doing, students, is you should be practicing in the chat. So here, Marasa wrote, some parts of the world, you don't need the few here. Countries, there's actually several countries. You can check, just for fun, how many countries have daylight savings. Okay, can anybody guess how many countries have daylight savings? I just tested that on the internet. What would you guess without checking the internet like I just did? Because I was wondering how many countries. What do you think? What's the number? Just to get you more interested, because some of you might be thinking, oh, this isn't in my country. I don't care about this, right? So, just so you know, 70 countries. So a third of the countries in the world. Okay, 1 out of every 3 countries in the world has daylight savings. So if you didn't know about it until now, now's a good day to learn about it before you get really surprised when you go traveling. So 70 countries in the world have daylight savings. Omid says a lot more than I thought. Yeah. So a lot of countries have it. It's good to know about it. It affects business, flights, travel. Oops, I'm giving you ideas. That's what you should be thinking. All right. So, yeah, a lot of countries, absolutely. 70 countries. That's a lot of countries that practice daylight savings. It's definitely not something you should be unaware of. Nemar says, today's session is very enlightening. I try, Nemar. I always try to bring something fun and interesting to the class, you know? All right. So keep that in mind. 70 countries. All right. Even India, according to this, some parts of India, not all, but some parts. Oh, no, sorry. India does not. India, China, and Japan do not. Okay. A lot of other countries do. Okay. So India, China, Japan do not, but a lot of them do. All right. Okay. Anyhow. So, controlling ideas here, the benefits, the negatives, and your opinion. Okay, so let's ask what, why, how. So, we know what it is. So, what is daylight savings? A change in clocks. Back and forth by an hour in fall and spring. Sure, so we know that. Okay, why? Why is daylight savings? So why do you think? What's the reason? This is a great question. I wonder if anybody knows the answer. I mean, it's kind of in the name. So what do you think? Why would 70 countries like Canada, US, Germany, and many, many more, why do you think they would change the clocks? Like, why now in November did we turn the clocks back by an hour, which means we're sleeping 1 more hour to wake up? Like, if people were waking up at 7 o'clock in October, they're technically now waking up at 8 o'clock. Why do you think? Aha! Solomon, very nice. Solomon says, probably because of the late sunrise. That is very clever, Salman. Yeah, it's exactly because of the sunrise. Art and Nature says because it's dark. Muddy Series says it's probably conserving energy. Yeah. Yeah, less lights to turn on in the morning. Okay, so that's probably no, the Art and Nature. Simplicity is great. Art and Nature says because it's dark. Okay, very good. All right, and how? It's very simple. Pick a day. Usually the first Sunday of November. Change the clock. It's usually not on a work day because then everybody shows up to work at the wrong time, and that has happened. That still happens when people aren't paying attention. They forget, nobody tells them, and then they show up to work. Well, in the fall they show up early by an hour. In the spring they show up late by an hour, and that happens. I've seen it happen where people are like, what? It's not 9 o'clock? Nope, we changed our clocks yesterday. So sometimes you see these interesting situations. Okay, so that's the what, why, how. What are the positives? Okay, maybe save some energy. Okay, better circadian rhythms. Circadian rhythms, that's how you spell that. CIRCADIAN RHYTHMS, circadian rhythms. What is a circadian rhythm, everybody? What do you think that is? So here I'm doing the critical thinking of why 70 countries would change their clocks like that in fall and spring, right? Obviously they're not completely crazy, so there must be some reason. So saving energy, right? Yeah, Neymar, it says it's your biological clock, your sleep cycle. And your sleep-wake cycle, right? Yeah, so the thought is that we should be kind of awake when it's bright out, and it should be dark when we're sleeping because we're not nocturnal. Humans are daytime creatures versus nocturnal creatures. Nocturnal creatures are night animals. Of course, I'm teaching you vocabulary here as well, everybody, for your higher level vocabulary. They're night creatures. Okay, are nocturnal animals. Okay, nocturnal means the nighttime. All right. So, what are the negatives of changing clocks? What do you think? Fatime says, I'm a nocturnal creature, sir. I don't know about that, Fatime. I think you've self-appointed. Right. I'm doing good, Morningstar. So what are the negatives? While you're thinking about the negatives of daylight savings, just for those of you who didn't catch the start of the lesson, this lesson is supported by aehelp.com for academic IELTS. Visit us there. Carolina, if you could put the link into the chat. And for general IELTS, check us out at gieltshelp.com. When you join on these websites, you'll get 2 extra classes each week on Thursdays and Fridays through Zoom, where we can do a lot of speaking interaction. So check out those websites, join. It's quick, it's easy. It's between $30 and $50 US, and it's not a subscription. It's just a one-time payment. You get apps and everything else and all of our videos for lots and lots of learning. So check that out. Carolina, if you could put the 2 URLs, aehelp.com and gieltshelp.com, into the chat. Thank you in advance. All right, so the negatives. Let's see what you came up with for the negatives. It is. Delali says it's difficult to adjust. It is. Especially for elderly and kids. Thank you, Carolina. Ariadna says it kind of disturbs the biological clock. Problems with the sleep routine. Okay. Sudden change in appointments. Okay, another big one. Think about the class. Students, think about like the real world. Always think when you're thinking of task 2. This is a big tip, everybody. Big tip coming up. Okay, I'm going to make this a big tip here in just a second. When you're coming up with ideas for writing and speaking, always think of the real world, of your real world experiences. Okay, this is a big tip here. I'm gonna make that like boom, super bigly looking. All right, Marasa, thank you. Marasa says difficulty to take the classes earlier. Well, it's earlier for you, but it's not earlier for me. So what's the challenge then? Exactly, Art in Nature. So Art in Nature says that kind of messes with globalization, right? So difficult to adjust to sleep, change in appointments, challenging for international business and communication. Absolutely. Hey, let's meet tomorrow online at 5 o'clock. Oops, that's no longer 5 o'clock for me. So it makes it challenging for business, travel, communication. There's a lot of issues there. So, opinion. My opinion, I mean, as you can tell, I'm not too happy about it. My opinion, it's bad. Let's get rid of it. Okay, I teach internationally. I'm not a big fan of daylight savings. We have LED lights that don't require much electricity anymore, and I don't think people really just wake up when it's light out anyway these days. So yeah, that's my opinion. All right, so now that I have this information, I can create my thesis statement. Students, the thesis statement must be clear and must accurately answer the question. It is the last sentence of your introduction paragraph. Okay, the introduction has 3 parts. It has a hook, a background, and thesis. Okay, and each of those have to be well written, especially now for the IELTS. We'll talk about that in a minute, and we'll write the introduction for this task too. So when you write your thesis, it's always a good idea to reread the original question. Okay, so you should spend about 40 minutes on this task. Several countries implement daylight savings, changing clocks back an hour in fall and forward an hour in spring. Other countries do not. Discuss the benefits and negatives of daylight saving hours and give your own opinion. Okay, so here I write the thesis. The positives of daylight savings practice are sunlight and energy use, while the negatives are coordination and behavior. I am against, or I am against changing clocks. Okay, that would be my thesis there. So the positives of daylight savings practice are sunlight and energy use, while the negatives are coordination and behavior change or adjustment. I am against changing clocks. I'm trying not to repeat words, always paraphrasing, right? That's why I didn't use the word change there. So the positives of daylight savings practice are sunlight and energy use, while the negatives are coordination and behavior adjustment. I'm against changing clocks. And I'm going to actually change these two around because I want to write about behavior first and coordination. Or instead of coordination, I might actually, now that I'm thinking about it, use the word scheduling. I'm against changing clocks. Okay, so that's my thesis. This actually tells my reader, when I write this in the introduction, that I'm going to write a paragraph about the positives, and then I'm going to write a paragraph about the negatives, and also include my opinion as well. Okay, that makes sense, everybody? Fatime? All right. I see Anna has a sentence here. Anna, I'm not sure if this is your thesis, so I'm just looking at it. Anna writes, several countries have a habit to change time while removing 1 hour in winter and adding an hour in summertime. However, other countries do not have this practice. Okay, so that's your paraphrase of the question, right? Okay, I'd love to see some thesis statements, everybody. Thesis statements are what make the essay great. Okay, so as I mentioned, the introduction has a hook, background, thesis. So the hook is an interesting statement. Okay, about the topic. Now we can now we can actually use our knowledge. We can say, for example, 70 countries change their time twice each year around the world. Okay, that's my hook. Okay. So 70 countries change their time twice each year around the world. That's a fact about daylight savings. And, you know, we just learned it, so that's why I'm using it. If you don't know this fact for this question, that's okay. You can go a different way about it, okay? Shukrat is asking, how much is your mock test? Shukrat, the premium package course is between $30 and $50 US. You just have to check in your country. Okay, that's a very good hook, Ariadna. I love it. Ariadna has a really nice hook. I think I actually like yours even more than mine here, Ariadna. It's simpler and I like it. So Ariadna says 2 times a year, daylight savings affect many people. Actually, billions of people. So let's like really like a good hook that really catches the reader. It's like boom, it hits you, right, Ariadna? So instead of many people, let's call it what it is. And that's true. It's got to be in the billions. With 7D countries, that number's in the billions. So 2 times a year, daylight savings affect billions of people. Absolutely, right? Okay, very nice hook. Okay, and then we can almost use this as a background after, right? So the background is simply just a definition. So 70 countries change their time in fall, and then we can make this a little bit more specific so we're not just repeating. Essays shouldn't just repeat the same idea sentence after sentence. Change their time forward an hour in spring, and backward an hour in fall to accommodate for the increasing or decreasing, increasing and decreasing light or sunrise, respectively. Okay, that respectively there means that the increasing is in spring and the decreasing is in fall. So far it's very good. Look at what's happening here. So this is the hook. 2 times a year, daylight savings affect billions of people. Now, I don't need to put the importance of the question in the background because the hook actually has it. Okay, so 70 countries change their time forward an hour in spring and backward an hour in fall to accommodate for the increasing and decreasing sunrise, respectively. Or the earlier makes more sense, and later sunrise instead of decreasing, increasing. That's better. Okay, perfect. And that's, of course, because a lot of these countries are either further north or further south from the equator. Okay, so 2 times a year, daylight savings affects billions of people. 70 countries change their time forward an hour in spring and backward an hour in fall to accommodate for the earlier and later sunrise, respectively. And now for the thesis, I just plop it in there. So I take my thesis, and you want to have that thesis, okay, very, very clear before you write your introduction. And it's kind of like a recipe in this sense for task 2. As long as you know what you're doing, you'll do just fine. Okay, so here is your Band 9 introduction. Okay. And it sounds like this. 2 times a year, daylight savings affects billions of people. 70 countries change their time forward an hour in spring and backward an hour in fall to accommodate for the earlier and later sunrise, respectively. The positives of daylight savings practice are sunlight and energy use, while the negatives are behavior and scheduling adjustment. I'm against changing clocks. Okay. Plop in, Neymar, means to insert. Yes, absolutely. Okay. Craig says, can you please talk a little bit more about the background statement? The background statement is a definition. So just so you understand a little bit more, Craig, background, when you write an essay, the background is the definition of the topic and the importance of the topic and controlling idea. Okay, so basically in a simple way, it's very logical. When you write an essay for an audience, so for a professor, a group, a teacher, a colleague, you basically in the beginning tell them, okay, this is my topic, let's get your attention. And then, okay, this is the definition of the topic, just to make sure we all understand the same idea here. We're not talking about running around with a giant bucket and trying to catch sunlight, and that's how we're doing daylight savings, right? So we're just making sure everybody understands the same concept before we start to dissect and go into details and describe it, right? So that's the background. Okay, does that make more sense, Craig, when I put it that way? So that's what we're doing when we write the background. So yeah, it's exactly. So Craig, it's kind of the paraphrase of the topic. That's where a lot of teachers and people talking about IELTS don't really understand what they're teaching. They just say paraphrase the question. Well, okay, so you're creating the background, and that's okay. We need that, but we also need a hook, and we also need a thesis. And this isn't Adrian telling you to do this. This is standard English literature. It's essay writing practice. Okay. All right, makes sense. By the way, students, on our websites here, so just it's not a sales pitch, it's just to get you thinking. So when you do join the premium version of the course and you go into your full online course, so this course is developed with clear English education pedagogy in mind, meaning like the standard essay practice, standard communication practices. It's not tricks and shortcuts to IELTS, because that doesn't help you. Okay, it's just basically like step 1, 2, 3 of what you need for a standard essay. Understanding persuasive essays, expository essays, narrative essays that are needed for task 1 and 2 in the academic and general IELTS. Okay, so that's why I'm telling you to use that course. All right. All right. Okay, so now that we have our introduction, what we want to do is we want to write the body paragraphs, and the body paragraphs have a structure too. So here, the paragraphs evolve from the thesis. Okay. So here, this is our body paragraph 1 seed, which will grow into the full body paragraph. The positives of daylight savings practice are sunlight and energy use. Okay. So, here we go. Body paragraph 1. The positives. Okay, now, body paragraph 1 will have to have a topic sentence, explanation, example, and sometimes they'll have a connecting sentence or a transitioning sentence that helps to transition to the next body paragraph. Okay. All right. Fatima says, topic sentence: as humans are diurnal creatures, they are better adapted with daylight times, getting up by the sunrise and ending the day by sunset. Love it. Fatima was doing some thinking and maybe even a little bit of research while we were chatting. That's very clever, Fatima. Thumbs up. I'm going to actually give you a thumbs up in the chat here. That's going to be my thumb. Boom, boom, boom. You even deserve 3 of them, I think, for that sentence. So Fatima says, why not start with this topic sentence for our reader? And that's why Fatima here has TS for topic sentence. As humans are diurnal creatures, I've heard the word before, but we don't use it often. So that's the opposite of nocturnal, diurnal. Creatures, they are better adapted with daylight times, getting up, I would say with the sunrise, and resting or ending the day. Well, yeah, okay, ending the day with the sunset. Yeah, I think that's a fantastic topic sentence. Okay, all right. So now we need an explanation here. Okay. Now the explanation, let's see if somebody can think of that. I'll give an explanation here in a minute, but I'll give you a moment to get ahead of me in your thoughts. Okay, so many countries that are further from the equator experience reduced daylight hours in fall and winter. So by adjusting the clocks, they gain those hours, helping to reduce the use of electricity to turn on lights in the morning. Sure. So that's my explanation there. Many countries that are further from the equator experience reduced daylight hours in fall and winter. So by adjusting the clocks, they gain those hours, helping to reduce the use of electricity to turn on lights in the morning. Okay, sure. All right. Now, for an example, it is absolutely okay in the IELTS to give false facts as long as it's believable. It doesn't have to be real, okay? It just has to be believable, okay? One survey showed that daylight savings led to an average of $4 billion in energy conservation in the US each year. Okay, and then now I'm going to transition. However, this practice also comes with major losses. Okay, so that would be my body paragraph 1 with Fatime's topic sentence. Very good. All right, now I review it. So here's another big tip, everybody. When you're in task 2, in the real test, okay, make sure to review after each paragraph, not the whole essay. It's much better to catch information mistakes, grammatical mistakes, and such, okay? So review after each paragraph. So we wrote the body paragraph, now we're going to review it. As humans are diurnal creatures, they are better adapted with daylight times, getting up with the sunlight and ending the day with the sunset. Many countries that are further from the equator experience reduced daylight hours in fall and winter. So by adjusting the clocks, they gain those hours, helping to reduce the use of electricity to turn off lights in the morning and sleeping a little bit later. One survey showed that daylight savings led to an average of $4 billion in energy conservation in the US. However, this practice also comes with major losses. Okay. Trying to see where that mistake is, where Vashu wrote an hour and not and hour. Where was that finger slip, that typo? Maybe in the introduction there somewhere? Anyway, we'll figure it out. Okay. Fatima says, I think we need a connecting sentence. We have that right here. However, this practice also comes with major losses. That's already going to transition. Okay, that's the connecting sentence. Because here the person reading thinks, oh, great, they're saving $4 billion. Yes, but maybe they're also losing money because this is energy conservation, right? Okay, so body paragraph 2 now also has a topic, sentence, explanation, example, but it's about the negatives. And my opinion. So my opinion appears in the introduction. I'm against changing the clocks. And it's going to appear here and in the conclusion. Okay. So let's see what you have. Okay, write, students. I want you to encourage you to write as well. Okay, so write your sentences. All right. Although daylight savings were practical in the 20th century, it has become a major burden with globalization and changing technology. Okay. Nowadays, people conduct business and travel around the world, and changing clocks in some countries makes scheduling difficult. Furthermore, energy efficient light bulbs, or LED light bulbs, have made this tradition somewhat obsolete. Okay. As an international businessman, I can state that daylight savings is a major disruption of business activity every year. Okay. All right, so that's my body 2 with my topic sentence, explanation, and example, including my opinion. All right, now I wrote it pretty quick. Like I wrote that in, I don't know, 2 minutes, I think. Obsolete, der Adler, means that it's no longer useful. Obsolete, no longer useful. Good question. Okay. All right, so again, I review this paragraph. Although daylight savings were practical in the 20th century, it has become a major burden with globalization and changing technology. Nowadays, people conduct business and travel around the world, and changing clocks in some countries makes scheduling difficult. Furthermore, energy-efficient LED light bulbs have made this tradition somewhat obsolete. As an international businessman, I can state that daylight savings is a major disruption of business activity every year, leading to financial loss and stress. Yeah. Absolutely. Okay. Now the conclusion. Okay. The conclusion, again, has a very standard kind of step by step. It's the points restated, argument strengthened, and take-home message. So let me write the conclusion and then you'll see what I mean. So in conclusion, daylight savings helps sleep and energy patterns, but disrupts global commerce and calendars. Okay. That's the points restated. That's what we're talking about. So that's the points restated from the essay. Now the argument strengthened. The argument strengthened here is going to be my opinion. Okay. So daylight savings, so this tradition served a purpose in decades past, but these days it appears to be more negative than positive. I believe there is a good reason many countries are abandoning daylight savings over the past 2 decades. All right, and that's another interesting fact, that a lot of countries that had daylight savings no longer have it, and many countries, including Canada and many countries in Europe, said that that's it, it's enough. In the next few years, they're going to stop this, and there's going to be no more daylight savings. So I know that fact, but if you don't know that fact, that's fine. You can come up with a different take-home message. Okay. All right, so that would be the conclusion. Now, let's review this full essay. Okay, let's check the word count just for fun. So let me just actually do the paragraphs only without the instructions. Of course, in the real exam, students, you're not writing the pieces down like I just did. Okay. So at this point, this is 284 words. And it should be close to a band 9. Okay, so word count there for the essay is 284. Which is just right. Somewhere between that 250 and 300, 320 range is what you're aiming for. Okay. So it reads like this. 2 times a year, daylight savings affects billions of people. 70 countries change their time forward an hour in spring and backward an hour in fall to accommodate for the earlier and later sunrise, respectively. The positives of daylight savings practice are sunlight and energy use, while the negatives are behavior and scheduling adjustment. I am against changing clocks. As humans are diurnal creatures, they are better adapted with daylight times, getting up with the sunrise and ending the day with sunset. Many countries that are further from the equator experience reduced daylight hours in fall and winter. So by adjusting the clocks, they gain those hours, helping to reduce the use of electricity to turn on lights in the morning. One survey showed that daylight savings led to an average of $4 billion in energy conservation in the U.S. each year. However, this practice also comes with major losses. Although daylight savings were practical in the 20th century, it has become a major burden with globalization and changing technology. Nowadays, people conduct business and travel around the world, and changing clocks in some countries makes scheduling difficult. Furthermore, energy-efficient LED light bulbs have made this tradition somewhat obsolete. As an international businessman, I can state that daylight savings is a major disruption of business activity every year, leading to financial loss and stress. In conclusion, daylight savings helps sleep and energy patterns but disrupts global commerce and calendars. This tradition served a purpose in decades past, but these days it appears to be more negative than positive. I believe there is a good reason many countries are abandoning daylight savings over the past 2 decades. That will get you a band 9, guaranteed. All right, students, that's it for that class. I will post this essay on our YouTube community spot there on the posts on the channel. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can see these posts and review the essay. I hope you enjoyed the class, everybody. Tomorrow we're going to do speaking, and you'll have a chance to speak through Zoom. Abraham, you're super duper welcome. Thank you, everyone. And again, remember, join aehelp.com for academic IELTS, gieltshelp.com for general IELTS, and you'll get 2 more Zoom classes each week on Thursday and Friday. The websites, again, they look like this. This is our academic website here, our general IELTS website here with the green background. It's a one-time payment for lifetime access. and you can keep learning English way past your IELTS exam. Good job, everybody. Good communication. Keep up the great work. Pay attention to the changing times for these classes because of daylight savings. Much love to all of you, wherever you are in the world today. I'm Adrian. I'm signing out from beautiful Victoria here in Western Canada. Bye for now, everyone.